It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. We are live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. Also live on Facebook and on YouTube. And I'm excited because we're going to have a nice conversation about history, one of my absolute favorite subjects, especially on a Friday. And so we welcome Nathan Koble. He is with us here to talk about the historical marker that's coming to Lake City, marking the time that Abraham Lincoln visited. So how are you, Nathan? Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Joel. I'm really excited to be here. Been looking forward all week to coming in and talking with you, so thank you.
We're a family show. We like to hear origin stories. Tell us a little bit how you grew up and what business are you in, and just kind of some of your journey there.
Sure. Yeah, well, I grew up as a Girard Yellow Jacket. I always say Mark Blucas was a great player, but I never want to see the opposing team's scouting report. I hope those are long gone, so I was no Mark Blucas. Grew up in Girard.
Did you play basketball?
I did play basketball. In fact, in some ways, this Lincoln marker ties back to it because I spent, like a lot of kids in Girard, I played basketball all morning, and then I'd go get a cheeseburger, fries, and Coke for lunch, and then spend the rest of the day playing basketball. And I used to joke respectfully, I wonder if when Abraham Lincoln was in town, he got a cheeseburger. And my research shows he did not. But I grew up in Girard, always was interested in that Abraham Lincoln visited, and kind of a boomerang. I worked for the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. for 5 years.
Are you an attorney? Or?
No. I work in government affairs for National Fuel now, just down the street.
Sure.
And I spent 2 years in the Peace Corps in East Africa. I was very fortunate to be in such a beautiful place. I was a high school teacher for 2 years on Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. Spent a little time in Taiwan, but really thrilled. You know, I'm a Western Pennsylvanian and really thrilled to be back here in Western Pennsylvania. So.
That's remarkable that you've had kind of this global perspective, but it just drew you back to Northwest PA. Wow.
Well, thanks for the kindness. And certainly when I was on Mount Kilimanjaro, one of my reflections was you really never know. None of us know what's coming up in life. Certainly growing up in Girard, eating cheeseburgers in Lake City, I didn't think I'd be halfway up Mount Kilimanjaro for 2 years. So we all never know what's coming in life. So it's exciting.
Alrighty, so you're here, and there had to be an impetus to this.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to think. Where are we? We're well beyond 150 years, right? Or yeah, because it would have been 2011, the 150th anniversary of the Lincoln's inauguration. And so, what prompted kind of the project, or where did the idea come from, I guess?
Yeah, well, going back to my days growing up in town, I always thought, well, this is something we could tell a little bit more. And last year, to my great surprise, the Girard School District Foundation has something called the Hive of Fame. And I got a call. Coach Holliday out there nominated me, and two-time Associated Press High School Basketball Coach of the Year. Just so kind of him. And I thought, hey, the Hive of Fame, that's for people like Coach Holliday, Coach Mark Blucas, people who have distinguished themselves in the military, education, in medicine and otherwise. So if they're going to be so nice to do this for me, I'm going to bring this Abraham Lincoln idea I've always had to the forefront and get it done.
So it's kind of been grinding in your stomach for a while, huh?
That's exactly right. And I
love that.
I got a lot of basketball metaphors too. I feel like I've been on a fast break with this because I've worked with Geiger and Sons. It's finished. Wow. They've done a great job with it. Having the chance to talk with you. So I'm on the fast break here working on this project, and we're going to unveil it this summer.
This summer.
That's
okay.
Right. Yep.
So I guess, what does it take to do a historical marker? Like, are there rules about this kind of thing, or is it just kind of up to what the community wants to do?
Well, for me, it's been quite a journey. I went down to Kentucky and to Hodgenville, Kentucky, which is where Abraham Lincoln was born. I went out to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Center in Springfield, Illinois.
Okay.
So I really wanted to make sure that I got this right. And a lot of the historians that I've talked to, they use the word kaleidoscopic in describing historical research. And now I understand why. Historical research is tough. Even this is a 20 by 30 inch Missouri red granite marker, and it has some text on it. But I really wanted to get this right. I didn't want to put a permanent marker down in my hometown that has an error about Abraham Lincoln's visit. That's the last thing I want.
Right.
So
you got to get it right.
Yeah. So I really wanted to do all of the footwork to make sure I got this right. And I wanted to put together a research packet. So then when I talked to Lake City Borough Council, they'd say, hey, this isn't just a whim, someone coming in with an idea he thought up earlier in the day. They'd see I really, went through my paces on this. So for me, it's been a great adventure and a lot of fun. So with all the visits and things, I mean, you mentioned that it was a kaleidoscope here. Yeah.
Talk about how you kind of built your narrative, because honestly, you had to kind of get a scope for, okay, what was Lincoln's motivation to say, hey, I'm not just going to take the fast train to D.C., but I'm going to kind of build community. And when you think about the context of that, just his election alone, Nathan, was incredibly consequential and certainly controversial.
That's for sure.
I mean, it led to, the South said, if this guy gets elected, we're out.
That's right. Yeah. That's a great question to really start from and then work down towards Girard and Lake City.
Yes.
So in 1861, Abraham Lincoln was elected and inaugurated. And he had this journey that went from Springfield, Illinois to Washington, D.C. And it was a journey of patriotism and also peril. And you might be listening and thinking, well, Erie County isn't exactly on the way from Springfield, Illinois to Washington, D.C. Now, Lincoln actually only got less than 1% of the vote in his native Kentucky. In 1864, Kentucky was one of the only two or three states he lost.
Wow.
So on this journey, there were assassination attempts against Abraham Lincoln. 1 mile, in Illinois before he got to Indiana, there was something on the tracks described as a machine car. I'm not sure what that is. In Cincinnati, there was a timed grenade that I think it had 15 minutes left on it that was in a box on the train car that he was on. And then the whole time, there was a plot in Baltimore. So we're in Maryland now. This is 1861. Maryland could have gone either way. During this train journey, states were talking about seceding. And there was this plot in Baltimore, basically what was going to happen. They were going to have some type of diversion. This is one of the reports I've read. And like I mentioned, it's kaleidoscopic, but one of the reports I've read and I think most resonates with me is they were going to have a kind of a diversion that was going on, and then people would attack Lincoln. But they had what was it, down at the Homestead strike, the Pinkerton detectives sussed it out and were able to get Lincoln through. But what I'm saying is, not only was it important that Abraham Lincoln arrived safely in Washington, D.C., democracy was still fairly new in the United States in 1861. We still had monarchs in England. I like to study the Victorian era. It's very interesting to me. So had Abraham Lincoln not arrived in Washington, D.C., what would have happened to the Union? What would have happened to democracy more broadly? And I'm fascinated that Girard plays a role in this, as does Erie and Northeast.
It's really remarkable. Yeah, he kind of took like a circular route, right?
Yep.
I mean, he went up to Chicago and over the lake route, and then did he go to Albany, then down to New York and over?
So the route it took, roughly, it went from Springfield to Indianapolis, down to Columbus.
So he missed Chicago.
He missed Chicago. That's right.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, a few years ago when
because the funeral procession did go through Chicago, right?
That's right. Yep.
And it went through Erie.
Yep.
For a moment.
That's right. Yep. The funeral procession did not stop in Northeast or Girard. It did stop in Erie, and I want to say it was very early in the morning, like 1 or 2 in the morning.
And they drew a massive crowd.
That's
if
right.
I remember correctly.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, but stay with you. Not we're way before that.
Oh yeah. I'll say too, one thing on this marker. I didn't make mention of the funeral because I want just people to think of the positive things.
Sure.
It's like, hey, have a great day in Girard and Lake City, and this is an uplifting message. But as for the route, so Springfield to Indianapolis, to Cincinnati, to Columbus, to Pittsburgh, to Cleveland, through Girard, Erie, Northeast, across upstate New York to New York City, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, back to Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C. So that was it.
Oh,
right
it
there.
actually did a
Yeah.
a backtrack. He went to Harrisburg and back.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
And, something I'm very excited. I've been getting a lot of mileage on this too. So there are only
Sure.
3 towns in Pennsylvania that will have an actual granite marker: Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Girard Lake City.
I love it.
Yeah, Harrisburg and Bucks County have like the blue and yellow markers that are great. But the one we're doing in Lake City, as with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, it's a little bit more like what you'd see on the National Mall. Not that nice,
Right.
I'm not trying to put in the Statue of Liberty or anything, But it's going to look the part. So I've been telling people, the Girard Yellow Jackets are up there with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
That's
so.
fantastic. It occurs to me, we had to take a break here in a second, but
Yeah.
it occurs to me that we really don't have even like an Erie County historical marker or a Pennsylvania marker about Lincoln in anywhere in Erie County that I can recall. Now, I mean, I think Westfield, New York must have the one for the little girl saying, "Hey, Mr. Lincoln, you might want to grow your beard." But when you think about it, just in our kind of local environs, Lincoln played quite a role when you think about it.
Sure did. And in the train station there in Brew Erie, they do have some banners that have Lincoln's picture on them, and it says 1861, but not like a marker. And I've been talking before he stopped in Girard Lake City, he was in Conneaut, and they're thinking about doing something out there too.
Seriously.
So, hey, there's some potential. You're coming through Erie County on Interstate 90, stop in Girard, stop in Waterford and see that great statue of George Washington.
100%.
So a lot of ways to connect the dots.
I love the idea of historical tourism, right?
Yes.
All right, we're talking to Nathan Koble. He is the energy behind and making it happen, really, full-throatedly, of a marker in Lake City, noting in the inauguration of Lincoln. This is like... Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show on a fun Friday. We're talking history here. And Nathan Koble is with us here. He's behind the new marker that's going up this summer in Lake City. What's your target date for the historical marker for the Abraham Lincoln?
Thanks so much for asking that. We're going to unveil it during the Lake City Firemen's Carnival. We're still narrowing down an exact time, so that's going to be in June.
Okay.
And part of what I want to do, too, is get more people out to the carnival to support the firefighters. One story that we have in Pennsylvania is, hey, these are some first-rate dudes. They're scraping by to get money so that when there's an emergency call to save people's lives, they can go out and do it. And I'm always, very fond of the firefighters and what they do for us. So what I would like to do is reveal this during the Fireman's Carnival, get more people to come to the carnival, and then I'm also asking for honorariums for anyone who might be inclined to support the Lake City Fire Company and also the Girard School District Foundation. Two
Nice.
great pillars in our community.
Yeah, you're really checking a lot of boxes off with. I mean, this is kind of the, hey, if we're going to do it, let's do a big kind of moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to seize the moment. And
that's fantastic.
Thanks. And I keep coming back to basketball. In Girard, we're a basketball town.
Yeah, you are a basketball town,
Yeah.
right?
And anytime
I'm thinking of the girls' coach.
Larry Sinetta.
Larry
back
Sinetta.
then.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
In some way, I'm trying to tap into whether it's the boys' teams or the girls' teams. When they have a great run, there's this great community pride. So in my own very humble way, in a very, very small way, I'm trying to tap into that and say, hey, look at this marker we're doing here. There's a lot to be proud of in our community. I don't need to tell anyone that. But take this and build on it. I know they'll use it in the school district. There are a lot of other ideas out there to promote business. So in some small way, I'm trying to tap into that community spirit.
I got an idea for you.
Please,
your next
please.
project.
Yeah.
You got to do a children's book.
Well.
Seriously, you got to get an illustrator and talk about the time that Honest Abe came to Lake City.
Well, thanks for setting me up there, Joel. In fact, I've written it. I'm working with a great illustrator named Dan.
Are
McAdoo.
you doing it?
Yes,
Oh my
that's right.
gosh.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
You've thought of everything,
No,
Nathan. That's fantastic.
So it'll be a kindergarten age book. It'll be
Nice.
available later this year. So the idea is, kindergarten, first grade age kids can read not just about Abraham Lincoln visiting, but Dan Rice, Charlotte Elizabeth
I
Battles.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it instills some pride in community pride and knowledge in them. And one thing I've enjoyed about this project too, hey, every town out there has an important place in the fabric of America. Maybe if you're in another small town in the tri-state area and you're like, hey, this is a good idea, this can be done in every small town. So have at it. I'm really hoping a lot of people build on this in the Girard and Lake City community and elsewhere.
Fantastic. All right. I've got like 5 minutes.
Yep.
I want you to kind of take us through the journey and what exactly happened because you actually have identified a real in-person account. So
That's
talk
right.
about that and now.
Sure. Well, let's. So February 15th. So he arrived on February 16th. February 15th, he was down on the north side of Pittsburgh, made his way up to Cleveland, and he caught a really bad cold. I mean, we can imagine traveling in February of 1861. Then he stayed the night of the 15th in Cleveland. Very large crowds there. Made his way.
I mean, this is a good month before inauguration, isn't
That's right.
it?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
that's right.
gotcha.
Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And so then he started making his way along the lake shore through some of our neighboring communities of Ashtabula and Conneaut. You know what? Let me say one thing about Cleveland, too, in my research. A lot of the veterans of the Battle of Lake Erie, which we know all about here in Erie, were on hand for Lincoln's speech that he gave in Cleveland
Is that
day. That's right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So on the 16th, he left Cleveland at 9 o'clock, stopped in Ashtabula and Conneaut, and his sentiment that he expressed in Conneaut, something along the lines, I've never had a political thought outside of the Constitution, and I've lost my voice, but my intentions are the best. And someone actually said to him, don't give up the ship. So it's like, it's kind of like,
goodness.
keep going.
Yeah.
So then he pulled in late morning in the Girard Lake City community, and what a great scene. It's kind of like Air Force One of the 1800s coming through.
Yes.
And one thing that I've really sensed in this is I think the Girard Lake City community really hit the right key on the keyboard with this, just hit just the right note. So this is a small agricultural community in this long journey of peril where there are assassination attempts. And what the Girard Lake City community did was they brought him baskets of fruit, which I asked some fruit farmers in February of 1861, what type of fruit are we talking about here?
Right.
It's largely apples and perhaps pears.
Left over from the fall harvest, right?
That's right, yeah. And however they preserved it back then. And
the predecessor of John Mason, right?
That's yeah, that's right.
You think
that's
about
exactly
it,
right. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Great fruit farm out there,
yes,
like many
exactly.
others. Yeah. Yeah, so they brought him what was described as several baskets of splendid fruit. And then Horace Greeley, and right across the street from us, Joel, there's that plaque, yeah? Horace Greeley, who spent part of his career here in Erie. He got on the train. He took a stagecoach up from Meadville. And he said, well, I didn't know Abraham Lincoln just happened to be going through the Girard Lake City community, and I just happened to be in town, and he got on the train. So like I said, a lot of history is a bit kaleidoscopic. So what I did was I talked to the Lincoln historian at the Lincoln Presidential Library in Springfield, and I said, what would be good to go on this plaque? And he pointed me to a book called Lincoln on the Eve of 61. And that's a young journalist named Henry Villard, who was on the train with Lincoln, knew Lincoln ahead of this journey. In every town he stopped at, he made a dispatch on the telegraph. And so I took his dispatch. That way, before I was saying the last thing I want is an error at Abraham Lincoln in my hometown. So I know this is as accurate as we can get. Other accounts just talked about how he made some brief remarks.
Now, where did this gentleman that was on the train, what newspaper did he work for? Was he a syndicate or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a syndicate, but it was one of the newspapers in New York.
Okay. It could have been the Herald, could have been anything.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And, one thing I understand Lincoln expressed then, and this wasn't part of Villard's dispatch, but Abraham Lincoln said that he had read Stephen Girard's memoirs and his biography, and Stephen Girard from Philadelphia, philanthropist for whom the town of Girard's named. So Horace Greeley just happened to get on the train with Abraham Lincoln. They came into Erie. I know they talked about New York politics. Greeley did an interview, which he telegraphed into the New York Tribune. I might be wrong there. I think that's it. Got to Erie just before noon, had lunch. There was a lot of patriotism in Erie. I understand there are actually some folks on a balcony that fell, but no one was hurt. So he had lunch in Erie, stopped in Northeast, then to Westfield, New York, and the rest of the way, and stayed the night up in Buffalo. Saturday night, went to church Sunday morning, and onward. So
he had church in Buffalo.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
So he was taking his time.
Yes. Yep.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it certainly part of the idea was he wanted to get out and meet the people of the United States. And as I've talked a lot about some uplifting things and some not so uplifting things here. He wanted to talk about preserving the Union and that the Union would stand, and basically rally the country behind the cause of the Union and democracy. So
had this narrative about Lincoln's visit to Girard Lake City been part of your growing up? I mean, was it always kind of there?
Yeah, we had great social studies teachers in Girard. Coach Holliday was one of them. He was a great coach and also a great teacher, and others. So this was something that we learned growing up. We learned about Dan Rice and Mark's Toys, and all our small towns have great stories behind them. And I want this to be kids playing basketball in Girard, them to understand, hey, Girard has an important place in the fabric of America, and this visit kind of punctuates that to some degree. So yeah.
We're going to take another break here at the bottom of the hour. We're talking to Nathan Koble again behind the historical marker going up here this June in Lake City, and it is remarkable. I want to kind of talk about your journey of getting the marker, because you're doing the research and then you have to figure out how you're going to narrow it down and what the design should be like and so on, and what once you. What is this, granite or marble? What do you have to use?
It's Missouri red granite. Yep.
So once it's marked in granite, you're not going to want to change and certainly not make any typos, right? So
you got it.
We got news at the bottom of the hour. You are tuned to Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show on a Friday. So grateful that you're tuned in to Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. 4:35. We've got Nathan Koble on the air with us here. He is the driving force behind the Abraham Lincoln in Lake City historical marker that'll be going up in the town. All right, so let's be really specific. Well, let's start at the very beginning. Very good place to start. So, all right, so this has kind of been... This story's been kind of with you your entire life. You after working away, you're back, and at some point you said, "Let's. What would it take to have something in town that would make this marker?" Right. So, give me the story from the beginning because I want to hear this journey because I think it could be instructive to other folks. Right.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I go back to using the metaphor. I'm on the basketball fast break here, and this has been a team effort. So I've really used a lot of resources within Western Pennsylvania as a whole. So Lake City Borough Council, great to work with. I don't know anything about making an historical marker. So I went over to Geiger and Sons. So we're running the fast break here in basketball. And I talked to Dave Geiger over there.
Sure.
And as soon as I mentioned it to him, he had some great ideas of how to do this. And also, I mentioned I put together the research packet so he could say, okay, this guy was serious. So doing that research and the footwork was very helpful to me. So
were they involved at all with the historical park up by Academy High School? I wonder if they
could have been.
Because there's some, granite markers up there, of course.
Yeah. They certainly have a great portfolio of work. And, he had ideas about what type of granite to use, the design. And then also, whenever we went to the design phase, it strikes me my grammar's pretty good. But is it so good to be etched in stone about Abraham Lincoln?
Right.
And the answer is no, my grammar's not that good. So his designer, her name's Danielle. So she raised, hey, we want to make sure we get the grammar right here. And she has a contact at Penn West Edinburgh. So that professor was kind enough to give it a grammatical look. And that kept me from losing a little bit of sleep also. So that expertise, that's a business that has been in the community for generations. They know what they're doing. So again, I'm passing the ball over to David Geiger. He's getting the the layup there for us. And then the media has been great also, Joel. And again, I'm so happy to be in here today with you. So you were able to present the idea to council. What were you looking for them to do? Did they have to give you some land or give you variance? I mean, what's it take to do this? I guess? Well, part of my research, I went over to the Erie County Courthouse to research, who owns the property and the parcels.
So was it actually where he got off the train?
That's right.
Or went to the back of the train, I guess?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So, if you can picture Lake City, I say Lake City is the breakfast capital of West Erie County.
Yes.
So you got the Yellow Jacket Cafe, you've got the Girard Diner up in Girard, you've got the All Aboard Diner. So the All Aboard Diner, that structure is not where Lincoln would have stopped, but that's where the actual station was. And back in those days, that station was North Girard Station because it was north of Girard.
Sure.
So he came around the bend from Conneaut and stopped right there. So the marker will be right along the railroad tracks there. And there are other nice things people can do. You can have breakfast. You can take your kids to the playground on a nice summer day. I say the nicest place to get a picnic between Cleveland and Erie is our Lake Erie Community Park. So you can go down there and have a nice picnic. So Lake City Borough Council has been fantastic. Anyone, whether it's Lake City or New York City, when you're in the public office, it's tough business, but they've been able to set aside all of the hard work that they do and all the priorities and that they have and really give me a clear lane to get this done, and I'm very grateful to them.
So to be clear, it's actually going to be at where the diner is, right? Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be, there's the station there, the All Aboard Diner, and then there's a gazebo, so it'll be right along there. So on a nice day you can...
And is that township property, or is it private property that's giving you an easement or something like that?
Township property.
It is,
so,
okay.
Yep, so that makes it real easy.
Oh, that does make it easy. Wow, and so... Like if somebody wants to come, stop and see the marker.
Yeah.
parking is there
Yep.
and the whole shooting match?
Yeah, that's right. Whether you want to have breakfast or just go for a nice walk on a nice summer day in an all-American small town and see that, and maybe that'll encourage you to learn more about local history or Abraham Lincoln himself. Just a nice afternoon that people can spend in the Girard Lake City community.
That's super cool.
Thank you.
And again, what kinds of, who does the install? Does Geigers,
Yep.
will they ready the land and all this?
Yeah,
No?
yep, they'll do all that for us. It's a 20-inch by 30-inch piece of Missouri red granite. The depth, I want to say, is either 4 inches or 6 inches. And so thankfully, they'll handle all of that. We'll have the unveiling, and the Girard School District Foundation and the firefighters will participate in it. So our ducks are all lined up. That
is remarkable. And so we're gonna have to wait to see what the inscription is, right?
That's right. I will say that the inscription did come from Henry Villard's book, so we know it's accurate. And one thing I wanted to do too is, there are a lot of markers along this journey in small towns. There's one in Cleveland. I don't think there's another between Cleveland and the next one's in Westfield, New York.
Okay.
But I didn't just want to say on February 16th, 1861, Abraham Lincoln stopped here. It paints a picture. So it says Abraham Lincoln left Cleveland. People brought baskets of fruit. Horace Greeley got on the train. So people will be able to picture, okay, here's what happened on that cold February morning in 1861.
That is remarkable. And then again, he continues on the journey, a perilous one, like you say.
Very much so. That's right. And the Pinkerton detectives
were they actually running security for the future president at that point?
That's right. And I was interested
because there was no Secret Service, was there?
Yeah, it certainly would have been different. Yeah, no doubt. And I was interested to learn that. Well, here's something for you. I'll completely forget this in the hour, but maybe the most shocking thing I learned, and if you knew this, Joel, I'd be impressed anyone knew this because I've never heard it before. Abraham Lincoln is in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says
again, another Girard connection. Right?
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah. So maybe he wouldn't have needed the Secret Service, but apparently of 300 matches he had, he only lost once. And I don't think, if we go and watch, Prep or Edinburgh or Girard wrestling, I don't think it was like that. And I don't think it was like you picture the old Clint Eastwood movies where he played Philo Beto. I don't think it was like that. But some type of hand-to-hand combat. In fact, in 1930, there was a movie called Lincoln. And one of the first scenes is him in one of these fights. And you might think, why in the world did they start a movie about Abraham Lincoln where he's in a fight with someone? But he's a Hall of Fame wrestler. But at any rate, so the Pinkerton detectives, the same who did the Homestead strike down near Pittsburgh, they helped thwart this assassination attempt on Lincoln. I learned Pinkerton was actually a cooper in Scotland before he came here, so there's quite a change.
Yeah.
But he got to Baltimore. They took him in under the cover of night to Washington, D.C. I don't think that's how they wanted to do it, but they had to get him to arrive safely. So, when you think of Lincoln, we think of him in our currency and Mount Rushmore,
right,
and the 13th Amendment and preserving the Union. But this train journey is probably an undertold part of his legacy.
Was there, we hear about, when he was campaigning, he came to Westfield.
Yeah.
Did you, in your research, did you get any sense that he campaigned in Erie County?
I did not know. I don't believe that. I didn't come across any of that.
It didn't come across that? Okay.
I will say at the Blasco Library, they have a lot of great resources there, and I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
And I came across a lot of interesting stuff, like an advertisement Luciano Pavarotti performed in Erie. Man, that's interesting. That's something else we could commemorate. But I'm thinking...
You would have loved to see that,
Yeah,
right?
I sure would have, yeah. But... certainly one thing I've learned is every small town has something interesting, and in the city of Erie is just rich with history, no doubt about it. And, a couple weeks ago, I had dinner at the new Afghan place over on Parade Street, and to think the French were there, and Parade Street's called Parade Street because that's where the French would drill. So I want to say, just like I'm asking people in Erie to come out to Girard, I tell people out in Girard, hey, go to Parade Street. You know, we all like going to the chain restaurants. I'll always go and enjoy them. But hey, now and then, come out to Girard for breakfast. And folks out in Girard, hey, go to Parade Street for lunch. You know, it's a great experience. Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. What do you think that you have learned about yourself in this journey? Because I feel like, again, this was a passion. It sounds like a lifelong passion of yours. And it's quite an accomplishment, don't you think?
Oh, well, that's very kind of you, Joel. You know, I say I've been humbled all around the world. You know, I was in the Peace Corps in Africa, and one of the things that really stuck with me there is even though I had kids, I had 700 students, and so many of them, you know, didn't have shoes and all these other things. And I don't like to paint the picture that we see, you know, the famine in Ethiopia with the flies on them. These are smart people, smart kids. I would do business with them in any endeavor, any day. But what I'm saying is, you know, I had World War II grandparents, great family, etc. These kids are better people than me. So there's something, you know, quite humbling about being beaten at your own game by people who have nothing in this world. Wow. So I've been humbled all around the world. And I think, too, to read about, maybe we just read about Abraham Lincoln in broad brushstrokes, but this is someone who was in the absolute crucible of pressure for years. We talk about the high points of Abraham Lincoln. He knew when he was getting on that train, you know, what he was about to go through, just the crucible of pressure. So, you know, just continued appreciation for the bravery of people throughout history, and that we stand on their shoulders. So, yeah, more humility. The older I get,
there's no doubt.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. It's like the older you get, the more you realize how much you don't know, or how much is left to stance or divine providence or what have you. Yeah. And Lincoln was a unique individual insofar as that, like you say, in that crucible of pressure. That tall man had a rimrock backbone. He did not waver. You know, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really understand it, but to actually remove habeas corpus, to actually, you know, run. If we're gonna be at war, we need to run this government with an iron fist, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's really remarkable. And in the end, although he didn't survive the outcome, the Union survived.
That's right. We owe a tremendous debt of gratitude, and you know, I get razzled sometimes when I forget where I park my car after work. You know, imagine, so, you know, just the heroism of everyday people in the communities in which we live here in Erie.
Well, even thinking about it, I'm sure you study leadership like I do. You know, I mean, he was so not assured of himself, but he was so willing to learn. I think it was out of that humility you talk about that he got people that absolutely hated him on his cabinet. I've read the Doris Kearns Goodwin, the Team of Rivals. I mean, those were rivals of him and rivals of each other. They hated each other, hated him. Somehow they came together to, you know, to have this great division come back together and be victorious. It's really something else.
Yeah, when you go to the Lincoln Museum in Illinois, they don't pull any punches there. There's a lot of stuff I'd never repeat on the radio, but I think I'd sum it up by saying a lot of people said he was the enemy of humanity.
Seriously?
So yeah, and they have a holographic room there where you have different voices talking at you as you walk through, and it's supposed to simulate what it must have been like to be Abraham Lincoln during this time. But the way that he worked with a team of rivals and stood strong. And this is someone, too, he grew up in a rural area. I think his father had a lot of debts, and you sometimes would have Abraham go out and do work to pay off those debts. He had very little formal schooling. He became an attorney without going to law school. So a tremendous, tremendous individual.
Unreal. Well, I appreciate you bringing all of this to us here, Nathan, and I'm excited to hear of this project come to fruition here. Congratulations!
Well, thank you, Joel. And I just want to say I brought both of you Girard Yellow Jackets hats.
Show them in the camera there.
Yeah, so there you go.
That's
so
fantastic.
Your honorary Girard Yellow Jackets, and please come out and see the marker this summer.
Oh, wonderful, Nathan Koble, thank you so much. And again, the marker noting when Abraham Lincoln came to Lake City, and look out for the children's book sometime.
Right, please,
hopefully by the end of the year.
By the end of this year, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Fantastic. It is 10 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on Talk Erie. Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. It is 6 minutes in front of 5 o'clock here. News coming up here, and we'll get caught up on what's happening around town on this Friday and this weekend. Kind of a big sports weekend. So we'll look at that in a little bit. I want to... Now, Nathan had sent me all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at his materials that he brought. So here is some of his materials that he sent us in preparation for the interview, and also as he gathered to get this deal going with